Good evening, everyone. It's Sunday night. Welcome to Teacher Talk. What is it? Sunday Teacher Talk, not Teacher Talk Live. That was a whole nother show from yesteryear. Looking festive back here this evening. It was my daughter Marley's 9th birthday this week, and we had the party yesterday. Well, yesterday was the birthday. Yesterday was the party. And it has been a crazy busy weekend. So Tracy Pinder, Sunday Fun Day. What's up? Tracy, what grade do you teach? I forget. And BR11? I don't, Run? Anthony Briggs, what's up? I'm glad that you caught this as well. I think it's crazy that people have a hard time catching it. I mean, I completely understand there's children walking by behind me. And I'm really glad when people like say that they're glad that they saw it and they weren't sure they were going to be on here or not. Carly Hopkins, what's up? Game Crow 88. I know that dude. Hales Teach, what's up? Jade Dobson, good morning. Where are you at, Jade? Stephanie Henry, what's up? Let's see. Oh, Bren's on here. What's up, Bren? Brennan is my unofficial manager. Yeah, Brendan Redding's on here. And let's see. Playing the blind card feels like a reference to something that I'm not privy to. What's up, Megan? What's up, Anthony? Sylv's on here. My mother-in-law, she tunes in from time to time. Spread the word, Sylv. Adriana, Jamie, Leah Pratt have been watching your videos this summer. Glad to get on the live stream as it's happening. I'm glad you're here too. Hey, who else am I seeing on here? Jasmine, Caitlin. Jay Dobson's in Australia at 7 a.m. on Monday. It's 5 p.m. on Sunday here. So maybe we should call it Teacher Talk Sunday Monday? just to confuse people. This is awesome. Amir, first week of school was amazing. Amir is a former student. He's still like former-ish. Like he's not in my class anymore, but he's still in my class. Awesome. I can't say I've been. Oh, playing the blind card. I'm sorry I haven't texted you back. I would still love to talk to you at some point. For sure. Hook it up. Text me back and let me know what's going on and we'll make that happen. It's a woman that wanted to talk to me about like if I knew any blind teachers. And I actually have been. Did we get a phone call from someone or a text from someone else or an email from someone? I have stuff to talk to you about anyway. So here's what I'm wondering, right? Last week was my first full week back, like first full days. And I'm wondering what's a question? What am I thinking about?
I don't know.
Come on, wife.
We all survived.
You're supposed to help me. We did all survive. I am thinking about a lot of stuff. So I'm thinking about things that I was surprised about going back to school, like we always have a number of kids that like transfer out of our school and don't end up coming back, and like some of them are really disappointing because they're like guys that you've worked with over the past few years that you're like really hoping that they do well in life, and then now you don't know what's going to happen to them all the time. There are kids that show back up that you're like, didn't think I'd see you again, or kids that show up in 9th grade again, and I'm like, bam, I didn't know you were going back to 9th grade. So I'm just wondering, like, what was a surprising thing that happened at the beginning of your year that, like, good or bad? And that's kind of what I'm wondering about. And I'm wondering about, for a friend, I got an email from someone earlier. If anyone has an answer to this, I may have asked this before. If you have recently taken the Praxis or anything like that, I'm not sure that the Praxis is a global thing, but like you're taking the test to get into your teaching profession. What websites or resources have you used? It's been a long time since I've done that, and I don't know. I'm not always sure like what to tell people or where to direct them. So if you have anything that you know about that, it would be rad to hear your take on that. And then if you have questions, what are you thinking about? What's going on? What are you wondering about? Maybe it's for a friend. Maybe you want to ask anonymously. Maybe like whatever. And then as I'm answering questions, please, people in the comments, you can answer those like as well, and feel free to like try and help people out as you kind of see fit. So the last thing before I jump into these, I've been partnering with Teacher Connect. Teachers Connect is an online resource where you can post questions and then people can answer them. You can answer other people's, and it's only for educators. So there are no like students on there. There's no parents on there. It's just for educators, and it's a way to sort of cut through the noise of social media to help people out and help teachers out like where you can. And the really dope thing about it is that like you could be a first-year teacher and try and help someone that's been in the game for a long time, because maybe you have some insight on something that they have not thought about before. And so I do want to ask a question from there, which we'll kick it off with tonight by Anonymous, which is a confusing name for someone to have if they truly are anonymous. But then their profile picture is Heisenberg, so that's kind of fun too. Hello, this is my first time actually posting on here. However, I've been quietly observing. A little background. This is my very first year teaching. Prior to this, I was a stay-at-home mom and held education, child/related jobs here and there. In August, I was hired to teach 4th grade at a school in an urban setting. It is an extremely difficult, capital letters, it is extremely difficult than what I am used to, and I'm really finding myself disliking it. What do? I really want to find a new job or even sit out the year of teaching until I find something closer to home. I'm trying to be positive, but I'm still not happy thinking about having to do this for the whole year. The other staff and admin are great. It's the children, the behaviors, the respect, the disinterest in learning, racism, etc. I'm very frustrated. Please help. So, you know, when I think about that, gosh, I just often think about teaching's like so many other things. Like you think you want to get into it, just like I think I want to go to the gym sometimes. And then I like the next morning, I just don't want to do it. Or you get there and you realize it's hard. And so if we just remember that we can't blame the kids, and I'm not saying this individual is doing that. They did not say that. But like, if we go in thinking like it's the kid's fault or it's the school system's fault, like that takes the power away from us. We need to remember as teachers that we have the power to do a lot more than we sometimes think we do. And sometimes that's just teaching kids to deal with their anger, to deal with their frustration, to deal with their anxiety. Because when we can do that, then we truly connect with people and they'll let us, then they will gauge, they'll learn to be interested in whatever it is that we're teaching because they are interested in us, because they know that we might be the only people that are caring for them tomorrow. We might be the only people that say good morning, that offer them a snack, that care what they're doing that night, that care about, you know, them babbling on about, and I do say babbling because I have some babbling kids that will talk about things that aren't necessarily interesting to us, right? Like Pokemon or, you know, Teen Titans Go or Fortnite, but it's not that I'm interested in the thing. I'm interested in you, and I'm interested in how you think and feel. So I'll totally listen to anything you're talking about because it's you that I care about. And so I just think that that's a really good way to think about it, because then it puts the power back in your court and not in to the court of the kids that are like frustrated. You know, like racist kids didn't, you know, I think Obama said this, like racist kids didn't come out racist. They like learned those behaviors from someone. Angry kids didn't just like come out angry, although that could be the somewhat true, but largely they are learning that from somewhere, or it's a coping mechanism for some other place that they're lacking because they don't know what to do with the anger. So let me know if anyone's doing anything cool in the beginning of the year too, like if that pops up, and then I'll shout out. It's, I mean, yeah. So Hales teaches asking, how do you stay relentlessly positive when it goes, when life goes at such a frantic speed and things blindside you at every turn? I'd love some advice to keep myself focused on the job I loved once. So I would say this, gosh, I don't know that I'm relentlessly positive. I think I'm just positive more than I'm not positive. My wife would tell you that I'm not relentlessly positive, but she doesn't always know what she's talking about. I would say, one, if you find, so one, there are just things that I know about myself, and sometimes they're hard to admit, right? So like I know that if I wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, I am a better teacher that day because I'm not waking up at 6 looking at Instagram for the next 10 minutes and then I'm behind, like I'm ahead of the game. I'm engaged. I'm ready. I am empowered to go into school and like crush it that day. But everyone knows it sucks getting up at 5 a.m., especially when it's getting darker out later here in the Northern Hemisphere or lighter later. And so like when you're in bed at 5, it's completely dark outside, right? But, you know, I know that I'm better if I do that. I know I'm better if I pray and meditate in the morning. I know I'm better if I'm prepared for the week, but I don't always want to get prepared for the week because I'm too busy like working on stuff I want to work on. But if I, you know, so here's my idea for that. 1, rig the game to win. Know the things you need to do for yourself so that you can be a better teacher. And if that looks like going to the gym, make a deal with yourself that you will do the minimum effective dose at the gym. So for me, sometimes that means only running 1 mile, which is a big deal for some people, but you know, some people would laugh at running just 1 mile. And I do 3 exercises, 1 set each. That's it. And then I leave. I can literally be out of the gym within 30 minutes and I'm gone. And you could make it even less than that. Maybe it's just you have to drive to the gym today. You don't even have to go in. You can just drive there every day or at least walk in, scan your little badge at the thing. That's what they do at Planet Fitness anyway. And then you're out of there, right? Or planning for the week. It could be the minimum amount of planning for the week, but what you're doing is you're identifying the things that make you feel stronger and you're doing them for at least a small amount of time. And what that does is it builds momentum so that you will then do more. So maybe you show up, some days I show up to the gym and I can run 2 or 3 miles and then hit like a couple more exercises. Like you're building that momentum. And I think the last thing is finding ways to make things fun in school. Maybe that's not even your lesson, but you're finding someone else to try and make their day more fun, to try and make them laugh, to try and make yourself laugh. And I think when you're laughing, your whole day is better. And I've never had a day, no matter how dark it was, no matter what awful thing has happened in my school or to my students, that I haven't been able to find something to laugh about, because that I think is the cure for so much stuff, because it takes the seriousness off the moment and helps you back up and reevaluate. Lydia Holland is saying, as a prospective teacher, how do I work with other peers in my group who are always negative and shut down my ideas? This is an ongoing thing. I would say, 1, putting in the time and effort to get to know those individuals, right? And that might sound like the worst idea ever, right? Like, who wants to go out to dinner with someone like that? But when they can see that when you are relentlessly positive, people just kind of get used to that. Can you go tell the boys to turn off the Google alarm up there? And so it's all I hear is the Google Home is like has the alarm going off, and they're completely tuned out of that. So when you're relentlessly positive, when you're relentlessly silly, when you're relentlessly caring, eventually people just get that that's who you are, and it's not just like, oh, she's first year and she has no idea, or he's only been in teaching for 3 years. Of course he's not like worn down yet. But the truth of the matter is like you can get worn down in a week and just hate it, right? So I think spending the time getting to know those folks, maybe getting to know them at like having them for dinner, going out for dinner with them, and finding other things to talk about. And I just think that positivity is contagious. And then I would say, find other people in your school that you get down with too, right? Like maybe it's not your team, but it's like somebody else that is like part of the science department or the history department, and maybe you teach English that you're getting down with, and then you make your own crew of people that are like maybe fighting those battles also, but you have to stay centered on something that's good and trying to serve, and not on just like talking bad about other people, because that's the dangerous trap there. Okay. This is from my buddy, the Diary of a Mad Black Teacher. Is saying, question, have you guys seen the Time Magazine article about teachers? And the article here is saying, let me show it to you. Right, apparently there's 3 everybody knows except for me. I have a master's degree, 16 years of experience working 2 extra jobs, and donate blood plasma to pay my bills. I am a teacher in America. So I saw that. What do you scroll me to?
We'll scroll.
There's like different ones.
Keep going.
Oh, I did see this one. I have 20 years experience, but I can't afford to fix my car, see a doctor for headaches, or save my child's future, or for my child's future. And my child and I share a bed in a small apartment. I spent $1,000 on supplies, and I've been laid off 3 times due to budget cuts. I'm a teacher in America. So I did see those. I haven't read the article. I'm going to go read the article when we're done. But I just think that
there's a bunch.
You know, I know friends that teach in Oklahoma, that teach in Arizona. And when I once made a comment that when I first started teaching, I made $32,000 a year, and how in New Jersey, that is like not enough to live on. When I first I've never talked about this. When I first started teaching, I just bought a house. I was living with friends. With me, my wife, and my son were living with friends until we bought a house. We finally bought a house, and we were so poor that I used to run out of toilet paper and go and take napkins from restaurants when I was there. Like if I was at McDonald's or something, I would just take extra napkins because we didn't have toilet paper. And so we even applied for public assistance, and I was told I made too much money to get on the public assistance, when I'm like, dude, but I'm stealing napkins so I can like go to the bathroom. And for me, it is mind-boggling that we're professionals. We're trying to do good stuff. Now, if I was working minimum wage, I could see or if I was working at McDonald's, or if I was doing any number of other like jobs that I've had in the past where I wasn't making enough to cut it, sometimes that kind of makes sense, because you depending on the job that you have, it's just harder to make more money. But as a teacher, as someone that's putting, 16, 12-hour days in sometimes, and then spending money on children and giving your all, your heart and soul to something, to not be able to make it is mind-boggling. And so when I put that out there about how much I had made, I have gotten so many comments and emails from people that are like, I wish I made that much money. I make $20,000 a year. I make $22,000 a year. And so for me, I hate to tell someone to get another job, but there are opportunities out there that you can use what as a teacher to make extra cash. And I'm not saying that teachers should just make more money, because they should. They should make enough to live on, so you don't have to worry about that stuff. But I also just think that there's things like, whether it's like Dada ABC, which is like a scripted tutoring program online where you're teaching kids in China English, and it's super easy. And I used to work at a place called Excel Academy here in Jersey, and that was scripted, and it paid like $30-some an hour. Or what was the other jam that we learned about? What am I thinking about? Oh, you're doing stuff. So I just think there's other opportunities out there. So I just, I think it is terrible. But if I were to help someone or steer them in the right direction, I'd say I'd go do this before I'd go do work at a retail space where you're going to get paid $7 an hour or something like that. Thanks for the ride is asking, what's the state of technology education in your school? I'm a tech teacher in New York, and there's massive demand and not many qualified teachers. So we kind of dream on a budget in West Philly. There is not always money for technology, and the technology that we have is often so for instance, freshmen have a number of laptop carts, because kids that are in 10 through 12 come in, and they pay a very small amount of money for a security deposit, but then they are given a laptop. The freshmen are not, because there's far more freshmen. A lot of them don't make it to the 10th grade. So I guess the initial investment's not worth it. So we have laptop carts, but when the batteries don't work, when the keys are missing, when some other teacher forgets, because it's never my fault, some other teacher forgets to plug the laptop cart in, you just run into all these issues. Or you have a bunch of kids with dead laptops, even in the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, that need to plug them in, because there needs to be 57 outlets in your room, and there's just not. So that's something that you always run into. So I try to not use much technology in my classroom, unless it's for a very specific reason, because I always run into problems with it. And any first-year teachers will tell you, if you don't have a backup plan, I'm saying first-year teachers because, once you've been in the game for a while, you have a backup plan innately. But, when you're new and you don't have a backup plan and the projector bulb goes, it's oh, no, what am I going to do now? It's this is a nightmare. And so it's tricky. So I don't use a lot. I did get a Promethean board this year, which is essentially like a large smart board that is touchscreen, and it seems really awesome, but I'm still trying to figure that out. So yeah, look, if I couldn't find a job, I would go to places and say, like, look, maybe find out what a school has before you get an interview and say, look, I've looked into what you've got, and this is all the stuff I can do with what you've got. Or I can teach teachers, like, on the laptops they have, how to use like Chrome extensions and how to use different websites to like enhance their learning experience in their class. So maybe they have stuff that they don't even like. Promethean boards last year in my school, we had a bunch of them and no one knew how to use them. They were essentially large TVs in people's classrooms for them to hook their computer up to. So I think on the front end is you figuring out like what benefit you could, what value you could bring to the school without telling them, hey, if you order a bunch of stuff or if you have a bunch of money, we could do this, but like, here's what you've got. Let's make something from nothing, or I'm going to show you how to go deeper into what you've already got. Anthony Biggs is asking, I moved back to teaching secondary math, 11-year-olds through 16-year-olds. I thought it said 11th grade through 16th grade. As I had taught at post 16 for a bit, and I'm surprised how much I missed it. My problem at the moment is building relationships with a difficult class. So Anthony, the answer for this is kind of always the same for me. The thing that people get kind of pushed back on in terms of building relationships is they expect, and I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying this is the majority of folks I've talked to. They expect it to happen much faster than it does. And the fact of the matter is it doesn't. It takes time. I don't know why I keep making gym references tonight, but like if you go to the gym and like work out and you work your ass off, you give everything you have, you cannot come home and be like, man, I look all swole now. Like now I'm looking tough, because it's going to take time. And so it takes time to meet every single student and then to do it again and again and again. And then they're still going to come in and be a jerk maybe. And then like kind of building from there. And you're essentially like building that bond, you're building that scar tissue with another student. And what over time that will benefit you. And then what's going to happen to you 100% is in the years to come, because you're going to have patience with this, or if you do, you will have students. Now my freshmen come in, they're not really sure what to make of me, but all the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders come back in and we really get along, and the students get to see that. And then I kind of am living off of the reputation I have with other students, and that wins so much of the time. It's ridiculous. So just what you're doing basically is listening to other kids. What are they saying? What are they talking about? What do they care about? And then find a way to know about that interest so you can talk to them and be in their space, and then it will just take itself from there. Alexandra Whitehead is saying, I am in my third year and I'm absolutely love teaching. After a career change from the legal world, my only problem is that I work all the time. If I'm not in the classroom, I'm working from home. So I think
he asked work-life balance.
Oh, okay. How does one find work-life balance? I think you find work-life balance by absolutely making it a priority. If there's one thing to understand about teaching, it's that the work is never, ever done. In the early days, my wife would always say, are you done work yet? Are you done yet? Are you done planning yet? Are you done doing that thing yet? No, I'm never done. It's like it's never, ever, ever done. It's like you can get to a place where you feel better, but you're not 100% done. And so just building that out, even if you're building out, like make it a priority that like at night at a certain time, that's my cutoff time, right? And I have this for myself where I have a hard cutoff where I'm not allowed to work after that. We're not talking YouTube or business after that. We're not talking school. We're not talking whatever. It's just downtime. You have to build that in. And for me also, it is exercising and either praying or meditating. What that's doing is like giving me more fuel so that I can give more. Like I'm putting stuff in so that I can get good stuff out. Which sounds weird, but like that's kind of my idea, is that like I have to treat my body like it's a Porsche and not a beat up old Toyota, and then I'll get more out of it, so that you're working a little bit more efficiently there too.
She's not a question, but help her out since you know this world very well.
Okay, Jasmine World is saying, so true. Googled Fortnite video games to figure out what these boys are so wrapped up in. I still don't get it. So Awesome. So let me speak to that.
We have an 11-year-old.
Yeah. The first time my kids got Minecraft years ago, I remember getting on. I grew up playing video games, right? You're like Mario and you're trying to jump through things and go down pipes and handle stuff. Zelda, same kind of thing. Then I get on Minecraft and I'm like, well, what the hell's the point? Like, we're just wandering around and like occasionally kill a zombie and like try not to get killed. Like, it made no sense. But if you play it, right? So this is the difference. You can learn about it and that's awesome. Download it. It's for free. And just run around and shoot people and play it. And then you will have some sense of like,
it's actually really
and
fun.
then here's your in, Jasmine, is then go to school and say, I got like, what are the best weapons? So they're all color coded. Like, is it gray, green, orange, purple? They all have little backgrounds around them. And your kids will be so stoked to talk to you about it. Like, this is my favorite weapon, or this is where I go, or this is where I hide, or this is how I get people all the time, or this is how you friend people. And then you're going to get, I'm telling you, you will get invited by the students to play with them, which is cool because you're not like on a microphone, you're not hanging out with them and stuff.
Well,
and you can be.
Just turn your microphone off.
Yeah, turn your mic off. And then you're just playing with kids and you're building that relation. I know tons of teachers that do this. You do it right on your phone. It's completely free. But then what's happening there, right? This is the best part of it. The students are teaching you something that you don't know about. So then when you go back in the class, it's this kind of mutual existence where they're being the teacher and you're being the teacher. And then you can start like relating things to something you talked about, something you did, something in a book or in a lesson that matches to what was in that game. And it becomes the best. What do you got, buddy? My buddy Tracy Pinter is saying, I'm mentoring a first-year ELA teacher this year that teaches in my team. How do you support him or allow him to make his own mistakes and grow from them, but maintain structure within the team? So that's an awesome question. So I'm thinking about this. If anyone saw my video from last week, I have my homie Ed is my new co-teacher this year, right? And so it is difficult for me, and I haven't even talked to Ed about this yet. So Ed, if you're watching, you can learn about this. Sometimes when we're in class, it is hard for me to relinquish control, which is kind of my personality anyway. But you have to let people kind of fail because that's like, and Ed's not failing, right? But like the reason I'm bringing that up is I'm identifying that I realize it's difficult when you're teaming up with someone sometimes because I want Ed to have the best year, right? And so if I feel like someone's not paying attention to him, as if everybody always pays attention to me, I like take it personal for Ed. Like, I'm not like dissing him, but I'm just like, yo, pay attention, man. He's like trying his best up here and he's new. So like, pay attention. He's trying to kick it. And like for you guys, I would say this. I would say going hoping for the best, but expecting failure, because like one of my favorite poets, Derek Brown says, losing is pregnant with chance. Victory escorts loss to every dance. And so if losing is pregnant with chance, it's only in failing that we ever learn anything, right? And that's just like said time and time again. It's cliche at this point, but like kind of like preparing them like, look, this might suck, but then what are we going to do with that? Because when they get out into teaching by themselves and they fail at something, what you're doing, Tracy, is like giving them the tools to like how to pick themselves back up, how to push through the next day. Because the teaching train doesn't stop, it just goes on from day to day to day. And they can be more prepared for that and then be ready, like to maybe kind of like jump in if they need it because something did completely fall on its face. And then you already know all the backup stuff and like how to handle that and everything. So I would just go in expecting it, like it's going to happen. Summer Tate is saying, I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Summer Tate is saying, I signed up for Storybird for my ELA 7th graders and wanted some advice on how to use it to inspire writing or to use as a final draft. So Storybird, I actually, if you go on there, I don't know if you saw this or not, I'm like their high school face now. I partnered with them over the summer. So just to be like transparent about that. But I think, Storybird, how am I thinking I want to use this? I've not used it. So what I use it for is teaching kids basics of narrative storytelling, like writing children's books or writing short stories in that way. So wanted some advice on how to use it to inspire. So I would say this, Summer, here's what I'm going to suggest that you do. If this isn't too much trouble, if you email me and tell me what you're trying to do, what you're trying to learn, what lesson you're using this with your kids, I can take a look at it and then help you try and navigate that world a little bit more. Because I have used it and I did have to learn it to be able to partner with them so that I could like make videos for them. But it would be a lot easier if I knew what you were working on or kind of where you're going with it so that I could just direct you in that way. So that's the best way to answer that question.
It's like 2 parts.
Okay. The More You Grow is saying, hey, Reynolds, I've been excited for Sunday. I had a question. I see you videoing with your students often. Is there some kind of waiver or document that they have to sign to get, what am I saying here? To have your students sign to be in the videos? I know that's a thing often in places. Yeah. So my rule with my school is the principal and I, last year, he said that I cannot record during school, which is why I never have any of my actual class time in my videos anymore. And that's something I'm hoping will shift at some point because I get asked for it a lot. I think there's a lot of value there. But the students all sign a waiver. I have one. If you want, I can send it to you. Just shoot me an email and I'll send you a copy of it so you can at least see what I say. But I really just want parents to know that that I'm doing it, that I am not doing I don't make a lot of money from YouTube, but this is my business that I am building is to create to supplement my income. And so then I want parents to know that I'm only ever trying to empower. I'm not ever trying to exploit their children. I'm not ever trying to get them to tell personal information. I don't use full names. I don't say the name of my school really in my videos. So I'm not trying to I want them to know that this comes from a place of good and trying to help people in the world. And I've never had a parent say that their kid couldn't be on there. I think because most parents realize that their kids are on social all the time anyway, but that's kind of how I handle that.
But you don't have your freshmen on ever.
No, that's not true. I have freshmen on. So I teach freshmen and the freshmen come on later in the year because I don't want to just have anyone on. I want it's calculated all the time who's on because I have kids that will just curse out of nowhere. I can't have that on YouTube and I don't feel like editing it out all the time. I don't want to just have the best kids on. So I'm smart about having kids that are on all levels of all different spectrums on there as well. And I just think it makes it more real. Good. Mm-hmm. What do you got for next one? Yeah. Write down. Oh, look at you. You're a boss.
No, this one. Sorry, I was holding it.
Alex. Oh, Alex, that I just emailed earlier. Alex, whose last name, bro? I could try it, but it's not going to work. Alex is saying, how do you deal with a coworker who disagrees with your decisions as a teacher? Having an issue with a coworker at lunch and recess who is older than me and has worked here longer but has the same job. I would say first, sometimes wondering if what they're saying has any if it's true, maybe what they're saying is right. So sort of reinvestigating that and not just shooting it down. But also I think, maybe, so there's a couple of things. One, just not hanging out with that person, right? Some people aren't going to be changed. Some people have been teaching for a long time. They're very set in their ways. And I know that I have people in my life that are older, my grandmother. My grandmother's not going to watch this. I don't think so. She's 85 and she has a flip phone. But my grandmother has very hard and fast ways of how she thinks of the world, what she thinks is right, what she thinks is not right. And I'm just not going to win with that. She's been thinking that way for 85 years. And if it doesn't damage anyone, or if it's not a defeating kind of mindset or it's not wrong, then I just let it go. And I just don't even have the conversation. And I just keep going on crushing it in my own life. And then there are other people that you just have to give them time. I have had too many people in my life to cut everyone out. I don't cut everyone out because I'd say I've had too many people in my life that I've not gotten along with, but with enough time and enough finesse and really you're building relationships that when something goes wrong in their life and you're there for them, you back them up. That's where I think real friendship comes from, because anyone you've ever been through hurt with, that relationship is far more solid than just someone that you've gone clubbing with, right? So I think putting in that time and talking to them, maybe not just debating about things, but finding things you have in common. Like, where did their kids grow up? What do they like? Do they, and then kind of making the conversation about them and then asking them about things they're interested in is only going to make them in a better mood if they're talking about sports and ask them about it. Like, it just benefits the whole situation. So those are my couple of quick things I would say. Did she say yup?
Yup.
Bam. Chloe McVeigh is saying, hey, Reynolds, my husband is in the military and it's looking like we will likely have to move in the middle of the first year of teaching. Will this reflect poorly when I'm applying for the next job? I cannot imagine any school ever dogging you because your husband's in the military and you are required to move. It's not that you're making the decision. And actually, if I was going to talk to someone about this, my friend, a classroom diva, I'm forgetting, what's her real name all of a sudden?
Jessica.
Oh, Jess. So she's on YouTube and she used to do a teaching channel that she doesn't really do anymore. She has a private channel now, but if you go on there, you can find her contact information. She's a lovely, lovely woman. And her husband is in the military and is constantly moving around to the point where she just takes sort of long-term sub positions every year, or like takes over a class that like people just could not handle because she's awesome. And so she would probably be able to give you really good advice on that. But I cannot imagine a school that I would want to be in that would dog you for something like that. What do you got there, assistant? Franklin Gaddy is saying, I think that's how you pronounce your last name. Franklin Gaddy is saying, in the next few weeks, I'll be going through my teacher cadet class and helping out past middle school teacher. Any advice on the difference between teacher help any advice? I'm reading this wrong. You did not write it wrong. Any advice for the age difference with a teacher helping teach middle schoolers? So I think, is this who we emailed earlier? Franklin, I think yes. I might have emailed you today. So I'll say this again because I think it's a good piece of advice. If you are, so what Franklin's talking about is Franklin is in high school. He's in a teacher program that they're going to put him in the middle school to go help an old middle school teacher. And he's concerned because his age is very close to the age of the students there. And I think this also works for people that are like, when you're 22 and getting out of college and you're going and teaching seniors in high school that are only 4 years younger than you, there can be this weird stuff because you're just like, you are teaching like kids that are so close to your age. I think that the mindset you need to go in with is that, first of all, just identifying it. There's nothing you can do about it unless you're going to like wish on a Zoltar machine and all of a sudden you're going to be like 30 years older or something like that. But I think if you go with the idea that you're the mentor or the coach and not the friend, right? Friends get mad at friends if they're real with them. If they do something that's to their benefit, but it doesn't seem like a nice thing to do. But if you're the coach or the mentor, you can say things to kids that they don't usually get said to by their friends. And so I always have kids, because I build relationships, kids that will say, yo, how'd you give me a 0 on that? Or what do you mean you're taking off a point because I was late? Like, I thought we were boys. I thought we were homies. I thought we were friends. And it's like, no, that's where you got to twist it, bro. We're not friends. We're on some kind of elevated stuff right now where I am your mentor or I am your teacher, and I care so deeply about you and about what becomes of you that I have to hold you to a higher standard 100%. Because if I don't, then I'm concerned of what's going to happen with you. Like, so understand that I'm willing to put your liking me, like I'm willing to like push that aside because I want what is best for you. And then that always wins. Kids can always understand that. And I think that's where you win with that situation.
So that's literally your next question. And then someone had a couple of good points. Jane Thompson.
Okay, word. So Rosie Lula is saying, hi, Reynolds, first year teacher here, working hard to build relationships with kids, but because I look so young, they are viewing me as a friend and not an authority figure. Any advice? I would say this, Rosie, kind of like my last point. tell them that you are not friends, right? And don't tell them that to break their little hearts, right? Like you don't want to like be like, I'm not your friend, I'm your teacher. Like, I mean, you could sound like Lego Batman when you say it if you want, but honestly, it's more about like sometimes in your life, right? This is a lesson for everyone. In your life, people will treat you the way you teach them you can be treated. So that can happen verbally or non-verbally. So when you're in a relationship, if someone punches you in the eye, you've somehow along the way communicated the fact that you can be punched in the eye. And that's not really, let me say that a different way, right? Because you could be in a relationship and that happens. And then if you stay, you're staying is saying something about what you're willing to accept, right? And I don't know anyone's personal situation. Maybe that happened and you work it out and your relationship gets even better afterwards. I'm not here to judge. I'm just using it as a metaphor. But sometimes you have to tell students like, look, this is my role. This is your role. This is what our relationship should look like. Or ask them like, what do you think our relationship should look like? And kids will be very honest with you. And so I get what that's like. But when kids realize that you're there for them and you're willing to push that aside for their betterment, I think kids really, really get it. And kids, in my experience, they love rigor. They love consistency over almost anything. That if I'm not at my door every single day, shaking every single hand, Reynolds, why aren't you at the door today? Is everything all right? Yeah, bro. I had like to handle something real quick. They love when people are honest with them and 100% real. They're not like trying to like my guys love when I'm super real with them. And I think they appreciate it more, but like your friends can't always do that. So I'm willing to not be your friend so that I can be your teacher.
So
Jay Dobson is saying, relationships with students are key in capital letters. When you're young, I found that they behave for you because they respect you and that and are upset when you make it clear they've disappointed you. Use your youth to your advantage. When we tend to understand that they're coming, when we tend to understand where they're coming from more and what they're talking about all the time, play to those strengths if you can. Jade, that is 101% true. And I love how you're using your youth, which a lot of times people like wish they didn't have, right? You're playing that to your advantage. You're using that sort of like what some people look at as a limitation to empower you is fantastic.
They were next to each other and I meant for you to read that one, but they're on the exact same topic.
Okay, same kind of tip. So JTHO is saying, I'm a young teacher, 23, and I just switched to teaching high school. Note, I look like I'm 16. I'm finding students don't take me seriously because of my age. Any advice? So I'd also say this, like this is a running theme tonight, right? Kids, first of all, don't tell them how long you've ever taught. Never, ever, ever. Unless you've been teaching for 20 years, because then it looks like you know something. But if it's your first through fifth, depending on the school year, don't tell them. Don't tell them how old you are either, right? They'll never know. If they just assume that you're old most of the time anyway. So I think just the way you're going to win with that is just like, so this is the JTHO, just like Jade just said, if you put the time in, right, you will just win. For anyone, building relationships takes time. And when you put the time in, you will 100% get returns on that. Not with every single kid, because not every kid wants a relationship with you. And not every kid gets, is gonna look for that from you. There might be the history teacher they get down with, or a coach, or the principal, or there might be someone else. But the kids you're gonna win with because you relentlessly put in time and never ever give up on them, and are consistent all the time with what you want from them. It just wins every single time. What do you got there, buddy?
Diane, she kind of commented. Look at her icon.
Oh yeah. So Diane Boyce is saying, I teach at a charter school in Philly too. Oh, interesting. My principal wants me to change the way I teach math. My students scored 49% proficient and advanced last year. My gut says improve on what I did last year, and then don't want to revamp something that doesn't work. State average for the PA for the last 6th grade year was 40%, and I'm not teaching to the test. I'm teaching my kids. So 100%. So I would say this. Dan, I would say I'm wondering what your principal is saying they want you to do, right? So is there any good in what they're saying, right? And then two, look, I just think, I don't want to give bad advice here, but sometimes I just think if you know better, then do better. Like, do the thing you know you're supposed to do, right? I just think when even teachers come to me and they say like, look, I have real scripted lesson plans and what the scripted lesson plans are doing is like, in a world of no child left behind, we're leaving kids behind because the education train just keeps tearing on through and kids are not getting what we did on Monday. But my lesson plans that have been written for me say on Tuesday, I got to move on. There's no space to go back and review that stuff. I'm saying just do it anyway. There's got to be some way you can cut something out or do something or make it beneficial so that you're kind of like playing the game to an extent, but you're really on the low doing things that the kids really need. Sometimes the administration doesn't realize what's the best thing. So maybe plead your case, maybe talk to your department, maybe talk to your department head or other math teachers or whatever, build a case and say, hey, look, these are some things that we're noticing. And this is a way that we think as a team, we could move forward to make this a better situation for the kids. Because when when you're by yourself, it's just your voice. But if you have that kind of backing of the whole department, it might really, really benefit you. And if the whole thing is a wash, then just keep doing what you're doing on the low if you know you're going to get incremental improvement out of the students. Because again, it's only about the students, right? It's always about the students, and just keep that mindset. And again, I say that without knowing your principal. I don't want to say something against them or say go against them. I mean, maybe there's some legitimacy to what they say, but you would know that better than I would. But that's my take on it. Christina Silva is saying, hi, CJ. I teach ESL, or I start teaching ESL classes tomorrow, but the grouping is indefinite. Any tips on how to manage the first week or two of kids switching classes? New kids join, plus we're waiting for books. Thanks. So I would say in my school, they're constantly changing the schedule. They're constantly changing kids, because someone will join football, or they realize that they were put in honors and they shouldn't be, or they should be in honors and they're not yet, or they changed electives. So there's a lot of that fluidity. I would say just start, just teach. And then when new kids come in, so first of all, I always start with how excited I am for the year and how pumped I am to be here and how this is going to be the greatest class I could possibly make it. And then what you're doing is if you can build that enthusiasm on the front end with your students, then somebody coming in later is going to be like, this is kind of awesome, or could be awesome. And that is what you want. And you want kids that leave, this might sound bad, but you want kids to leave to think like, oh no, I like this class, right? And so that is, and then when someone new comes in, I always pull them aside. I'll get everyone else started on whatever we're doing. I pull them aside and kind of give them the shortened version, the Cliff Notes version of like, look, I just want you to know I'm stoked to be here. I want the best year ever for you. If you need anything ever, please come see me. That could be not being able to open your locker, or you don't know what's for lunch today, or you are lost, or you don't know what we're learning in class. Like, come to me for all that stuff. And then those little side conversations are giving that kid the one-on-one, so they're not going to feel awkward or like they're left out of something when you and the class are really moving at a pace and you're connecting and things are going well. They won't feel left out. They'll feel like partnered in. And then I would team them up with someone or sit them next to someone that's going to be encouraging. Like, be strategic about where you put that new kid so that they are getting everything out of the class they can and not feeling like, like the third wheel in the class or something like that. I like that you're laughing about stuff next to me. Like, I don't know what you're reading, but I just hear you nose laughing over there. Like, you're trying not to be loud. It's kind of fun. So, I don't know how to say that.
Just spell it.
Shidar 2012. I think I'm saying that right. I don't really know. Hey, Reynolds, what advice can you give about supporting a club for students? I got students asking about a Spanish club, but we have no clue where to start. So, sponsoring a club for students. I got students asking about a Spanish club, but I have no idea. So you have kids that want a Spanish club. I don't know if I'm getting this right. So maybe you could clarify it for me. What I'm hearing is kids want a Spanish club. You want to start one, but you don't know anything about Spanish or about Spanish clubs.
Or clubs in general.
Or clubs in general. I'm going to give this piece of advice. And if you want to clarify that, then I'll go get down with it. I only ever have clubs after school that kids are interested in. It's stuff that I might be interested in also, but I never try to say like, hey, I want to have, and I'm not saying you're doing this, but I'm just saying it's a good move. I'm going to have a club on transcendental literacy, right? Or literature, right? I love the transcendental movement and I want to have a book club on that. Or I want to have a club about women's rights. If nobody's interested in it, then they're not going to want to do it, right? So like find something they're interested in. So if you're doing that with the Spanish club, dope. If you don't know anything about it, find people that do. And what that can look like is maybe find people in your community that like are a Spanish interpreter for someone, or they work at, I read somewhere, maybe it was like in some book where like folks were essentially, let me say it this way. You're essentially finding people in the community, finding people online in the world that can help you create a curriculum or can shed some light on some of the things your kids want to learn about, right? So I realized that in teaching my hip hop class, I don't know everything about hip hop. I couldn't DJ for the life of me. I can't break dance. When I dance, it looks embarrassing. And so when I don't know anything about how to write rhymes, I don't know anything about how to MC an event, but I know people that know how to do that. And sometimes that's even better because they are legit and you're not the talking head all the time. You're like bringing in a guest that's talking about something that is running something for a week or for a day with your kids. And then if they're awesome, you just look super awesome. And so you benefit more than once. So that's kind of what I would do is like, if I'm thinking about that in the short term, who in your community, go on Instagram, search hashtags, search them on Twitter or on Facebook. And on Instagram, you can search hashtags based on where you live too. So it's going to be really close. So when I'm looking for street artists to come into school, I search hashtags in West Philadelphia or in Philadelphia in general, and then I just DM them. And the great thing about DMing people is, this is like way Gary Vee right here, but like DMing with my students' eyes is only used for hooking up. That's the only reason anyone DMs. So when you're DMing and you're trying to connect with someone, if I want to connect with someone, everybody emails and everybody uses Twitter, but the DM is almost never used. So I can break through the noise a lot more and get really cool people in a way that like, and I'm connecting with them in a way that like nobody kind of saw coming. And my students think it's hilarious because they think everyone thinks I'm going to try to hook up. But I'm like, bro, I'm like cuffed for life over here.
Cuffed.
That's what they say. That's what they call wedding rings. They're like,
No.
bro, you're cuffed? And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like not a happy thing. It sounds like I got arrested. Kids, quiet. Trying to appear noble.
Are you still live?
I'm still live. Brendan was on here. This is Brody.
Wait, Brendan?
But he's not on here anymore. And Grayson. They were playing lightsabers outside today, and it was very loud.
And Fortnite.
And Fortnite.
Go move. Get out of the camera.
Cool.
Nobody knows you.
All right, I'm gonna ask.
All right,
I'm gonna ask more questions. How do you deal? So this is from Alex is asking, how do you deal with uninvolved parents? Only 2 out of 16 parents showed up at back to school night. So here's the thing. One, back to school night does not mean that your kids. So I'm going to project a little bit, right? I'm going to read into what you're saying, and if I have it wrong, I'm not saying I don't say anything bad about you, or I don't mean it in that way. I would say that back to school night is not a real testament to whether or not someone's involved or not. Like sometimes work gets in the way. Sometimes mom's working 2 jobs and she can't make it to back to school night because she's hustling and trying to provide for her kids. So I would say give them the benefit of the doubt and call home. Hey, I didn't see it back to school night, and I just wanted to make sure, like, you know that I'm your kid's teacher. This is what we're learning this year. There's a dinosaur behind me. And if there's ever anything that I can do, please just let me know. And sometimes hearing that kind voice is like parents, as parents, we know, like I didn't go to my daughter's back to school night because something came up this year. First one I've ever missed. And in the back of your head, you're thinking am I being judged because I look like a bad parent? Parents don't like to look like bad parents. They will do anything to save face. And so if you call up and say, hey, no judgment. I was just wondering how you were. And like, if there's ever anything I can do, and this is who I'm the teacher, that will just make people feel good. And if they know that when they call you, they're going to feel good, they'll be more apt to reach out. I think the other thing you can do is, depending on like what grades people are teaching, like have parents come in, have them come in and talk about their jobs or about something that's a hobby, or have them come in and read books to your students. My son's teacher used to do this thing where they would have all the kids close their eyes, they like hide their eyes, and then there was a special reader that would come in. And any number of times I went in and I had a book that I chose. I went in for 15 minutes to read the book to kids. And when they see who's there, like the kids were ecstatic because their mom or dad or grandmom or pastor or whoever came in, and they were stoked about it. And I just think that's a really fun way to kind of involve parents and get them into the classroom. And then they're going to buy in more because they see what's going on. And I think that could be a really great thing. Leah Pratt is asking, how do you encourage a colleague who is down about drama going between herself and other teachers, but also help her see that she is the one that is starting it and keeping it going? Look, I'm my channel is called Real Rap with Reynolds because I believe 100% in having real conversations with people. When you can learn to have tough conversations with people, it only benefits your life. It does not start drama. It doesn't start shit. It just really starts a real dialogue with people, and they see where you're coming from. And you don't have to do it from a place of anger or disappointment or judgment. The way I would have that is to say, hey, look, this is what I'm noticing lately, right? And you're not saying this is what you're doing. This is what I'm noticing. And I'm wondering if this is the best thing for you. I care deeply about you. I want you to have the best year ever. I want you to have the best experience ever at our school. But I'm thinking like, tell me if I'm seeing this right. I think that that's the best way to do it. And then really, really listen to what they're saying. And the third part is say back to them what they said. My wife and I do this all the time, where she'll tell me something about myself and I say, all right, so what I'm hearing is, and then you say it back to them in their words. And sometimes when people hear back what they're saying, it like changes their mind. It blows them away because it's like, no, what I'm saying is this. And it's like, bro, but I just said exactly what you said. And that really can start a conversation of like holding a mirror up to people's actions and to their words, and you can have a much better conversation. So that's what I would say. Hey, this is what I'm noticing, and I just want to talk to you about it because they deeply care about you. Wendelin Arroyo. First of all, I have never heard the name Wendelin in my life, and it's kind of beautiful. And your last name, I apologize, but I have a name disability or something like that. Thoughts on using sentences as a form of consequence? I'm not in agreement for any reason. However, thought I'd get your insight before we have a talk with the teacher. Thoughts on using sentences as a form of consequence. So does that mean like, and maybe you could clear this out, like
Bart Simpson when he had
like that's not what I was thinking.
What are you
so my wife thinks you're talking about like old school, like Bart Simpson standing at the wall, like writing stuff. I don't know. I saw it as like telling kids they have to write like 5-sentence minimum, and if they don't do that, then now it's a 7-sentence minimum, and if they don't do that, or if they're still being loud, it's a 10-sentence. So either one of us could be right. Here's what I think about both of those things, because I love ridiculous detention sometimes, because I like absurdity. I think we are too serious about stuff. So I used to have this detention, right? I got it from my 8th grade teacher, Mr. Curry used to do this. He would draw a circle about the size of your head on the board. He would then shade in that circle, and he would say, your detention's over when you're done flicking a rubber band at this, and it erases the circle completely. Or if 2 people got a detention because they were talking or screwing around in class, he would do it for 2 kids, and whoever erased it first could leave. The other kid had another detention the next day. And look, he never made you erase the whole thing. I never made kids erase the whole thing. I never always give like a straight detention the next day to another kid. It's always just a space for us to talk, but it provides a little bit of levity about what happened. It's like, now you have to do this thing, and it's going to be weird. Like, or serve some purpose or something like that. I think it provides levity to the situation sometimes. And so in terms of like writing things on the board, I don't know. It depends on what you're writing. Like if they had to write Mr. Reynolds is the greatest teacher in the world, I'll never talk in his class again, I think that's a little bit funnier than like writing something serious on the board. But for increasing sentences, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's a good move. I think it's like when people make their kids, they're like, oh, are we talking a lot? Well, now you have to read. Because what you're doing is like, you're attributing negativity to this thing that should be positive. That'd be like if my kids were acting up and I said, oh yeah, well now you have to come over and hug me now. And it's like, I don't want to connect hugging with you doing something bad. So I just think people need to be careful with that. And to be honest, detentions in general are not, most of the time they're bullshit. Like detention should be, you're acting up in class, now you have to stay after, but it's so we can connect on a deeper level, so I can understand where you're coming from, or you can try and understand where I'm coming from, and we're building that relationship. We're creating something out of this like negative experience. We're trying to make the most positive thing we can out of it, and the detention is really so I have time to talk with you one-on-one, because I don't have that time in the middle of class all the time. Zahara J is saying, what kind of teacher did high school Reynolds prefer? Oh, okay, I get it. Do you think your younger self would like the kind of teacher you are today? Zahara, I am 100% as close I can be to the teacher I always wanted. I very, very rarely had good teachers. I went to high school in Jersey where like kids from other schools got kicked out and sent there. But I didn't know it was that kind of high school because I visited on a Saturday and it looked awesome because they had a pool and a really dope wood shop. And then I got there and I was like, oh, this is like friggin' Dangerous Minds all of a sudden. But I wrote it out because I don't like giving up on anything, and it actually made me a much better human being in my life. And so I think for me, it's someone that is consistent, someone that is funny, someone that talks real, and we're not bullshitting kids. We're not trying to sell kids, like telling them that algebra is good because I said so, but they're actually breaking it down. Like what is the actual use of algebra? And I have a teacher that I'm teaching with this year that's really trying to break that down for her boys. It's about making things relevant. It's about taking if someone had ever taught a lesson based on either Star Wars or Tribe Called Quest, it would have blown my mind that a teacher took the time to learn what I was interested in, to do something that I like within class. It would have blown my mind. It would have been the greatest. So I think I'm the same kind of parent. I'm the same kind of friend. I'm the same kind of husband. That husband doesn't really work out, but like I'm the same kind of spouse because I'm trying to be the person that I would have wanted. That's where I always come from. Great question. Thank you.
All the greens.
All the greens are saying, Diamond Flame 45 is saying, I've been displaced to middle school from high school due to under enrollment. How do you recommend I adapt? I'm obligated this year, but I plan to apply for high school next year. I would say middle school to high school, it's not that different to me. I maybe that's because I teach 9th grade and 8th grade is so similar. I would say, first of all, as best you can do not lament about it. Take it as something that you're like, I'm going to crush this more than I'm going to take that little tiny classroom. I'm going to take that cart. I'm going to take this job and I'm going to do the absolute best with it that I can possibly do. And who knows, maybe you even like it more. And the reason I like high school more than middle school is I feel like I can go even deeper. I can talk about stuff that I couldn't talk about with middle schoolers. I can expose them to music and movies and ideas that like just your mind might not be ready for in the middle school. You can do trips. You can do like the high school kids have a vision of like the fact that like high school is almost done. Like that next part of my life is about to start that middle schoolers do not have yet all the time. And so making things relevant, talking about college, talking about real life, talking about like them like having freedom and all that stuff is so fun because you're giving kids this glimpse in the outside world that they might not have otherwise. So I would just say run with it. And I keep saying, like, bring speakers into your classroom, but I think high school is the best time to do that, especially if you can get people that can speak to what it's like as soon as high school's done. I think that's just super dope. And if you're looking for like English, I don't know what you teach, but I teach high school English. I'd be more than happy to like share any resources with you. So if you shoot me an email and you need help with that, I'd be down to do that. And Anthony Biggs is saying, can you do a video on your teacher planner if you use one? I know not everyone does. So I don't use a teacher planner, but I plan, and I use and I could do a video on this because I get the question of. I use one of those big like desk pads that you get at Staples for like $7 to $10, and then I plan out all of my stuff on there. And the short of it is, I go through and mark all the stuff like days I'm going to have off, things that are coming up, speakers are coming in, class trips are going on. Cancel all those days out. And then I take my book, whatever I'm reading, and if it's 200 pages, I figure out how many days I have left in that 5-week period. I divide the number of pages in the book so I have an idea of how much I need to be reading every day and every week. And then I just fit in my lessons like that. So like if I know I'm reading the first 3 chapters of Lord of the Flies or the first chapter in that first week, I want to focus in on things like imagery, right? So I know imagery is what's happening then. The second week, Ralph and what the hell's his name? What's his name, dude?
Oh, I'm great.
Ralph. Oh, sorry. Ralph and whatever the hell his name is. The other dude in Lord of the Flies, I'm blanking right now. Is like I might want to focus on conflict in the second week because I know that that's the beginning of conflict. And so that's how I sort of reverse engineer what I'm doing in class. You got any more for me?
Yeah, we need to be just about done.
Yeah.
Summer Tate.
Summer Tate is asking, I have a limited English speaking student in my social studies class. She's very smart, but she's totally lost when I'm teaching. I'm going to try to get her an iPad with Google Translate. Any advice? I would say, when I taught in Camden, I would constantly get kids that were coming from either Mexico, Dominican Republic, or Puerto Rico that could not speak English at all. What you're going to find is just by being in the class and sort of them having to be forced to learn English, they'll learn English very quickly. I would just let them know, like maybe you could tailor different assignments to them. Maybe you could give them different English books, or you could give them graphic novels or something along the lines where you're sort of slowly introducing them and they're still doing work, but they're doing different work than everyone else until they kind of catch up with their language and with their writing skills. But I would, more than anything, I would work on building that child's self-esteem up and letting them know that it's okay to be where you are. We're not expecting you to be to move with the pace of the rest of the class. And that is not because you're stupid. It is because you have made this brave move to this new classroom where it's completely unfamiliar. And if any of us were moved to any other country in the world, we might be forced to do that also, although we're Americans, so we just expect everyone to know English. But anyway, if you were in that situation, you would feel the same way. And then maybe start by having short conversations with that kid, invite them in for lunch or after school and just say, hey, how are you? Or what did you like to do where you came from? And then have them try and work through talking about themselves. And that might start just making them more comfortable to do the deeper dive into education.
Last one. I don't know, it's
All
not
right.
very relatable to you, but
Zafir Shadows is saying, is makeup seen as is makeup seen as professional for teachers? I start my practical experience this coming Tuesday and notice that many people go to their assigned classes or
they go to their
assigned classes wearing makeup, but I am not a makeup person. I would say this. That's a really great question. I think you should go in doing you, right? Do not try to be someone else. So for instance, and this is so minor to what you're talking about, but I'll share it anyway. When I student taught, the guy I student taught with expected that he thought I should shave every day. It's something he shared with me. And I hate shaving. I always just keep kind of this scruff, but I never ever shave because part of it is because I look like a baby if I do. But I just don't like doing it. So I never do. And I like thinking about what I wear. That is something that matters to me. But if somebody else doesn't, here's the thing that's going to come down to is it's going to come down to you and your level of caring about the students. And on the front end, your fashion might be like analyzed, or whether or not you do your hair every day, or you wear makeup, or you tweeze your eyebrows, or I don't think anyone tweezes their eyebrows, do they? That thing. I don't know. But anyway, it all is going to come down to how you treat and how you deal with the students, right? So don't feel any type of way about anything, the way you might look. It always comes down to how you treat the students. And I know that for fact, because I have seen people come in that wear the same thing every day and they get down with students. I've seen people that, like, one of my best friends at school does not look like she should be a successful teacher in West Philadelphia, in terms of like, and this is totally judging her, right? Like if someone were to judge her, that she is like, she's not particularly tall. She doesn't have a particularly commanding voice. She has red hair. She is very, very kind and loving. And if you had that described to you and you thought this person will do a good job teaching in West Philadelphia, it doesn't look like it, but she's amazing. She's like the greatest teacher, one of the greatest teachers anyway that I've ever met. She would do anything for her students, and the students know that. And so, but she does that by authentically being who she is and not pretending to be someone else. If she tried to be tough or tried to be down, everyone would see through it. But instead, she's just the beautiful, kind-hearted soul that she is every single day without fail. And that's how she wins every single year. So gang, that's the end. If I didn't get to your question, if you want to go a little bit deeper, shoot me an email. Now listen, emails, real quick before you sign off, please listen to this. Are very, very difficult to get to right now. There are a lot of people having a hard year. I did about 40 emails today, 30 emails today. I sent videos to everyone. And so it just takes a long time sometimes to get to them. I have 16 more to go. And then if you emailed me and you're waiting for a response, I only have 16 more to go. Please, please, please. If you think that someone could use this platform, if they have a question, if they need help, please send them to the channel. I'd love for them to subscribe, to hit the bell, to show up at the live feeds, not so I can like make money or like be a big deal. I have zero friggin' interest in that. What I have an interest in is really helping people that are feeling alone right now, that feel like they're struggling, to have a place to ask questions, to have a safe space to like get something from, and not just from me, from all of you awesome people that are in the comment section, like offering help, giving advice, doing cool stuff. You are not invisible. I see you on there, and I go back and I read all this stuff as soon as we're done. I just don't have a chance to do it online all the time. So gang, until next week, I hope you have the best week ever. I hope it's super fun. I hope you have something great going on. And if you do, come share it next week. And if you don't, we're here for you next Sunday, and we'll help you out and help you be the best that you can be. Peace. Awkward ending while I hit the button. And